Hello, everyone, and welcome to another GateDrop.com podcast. I'm Jonathan McCready. With me is Andy McKinstry. And before we start with the AMA review and MXGP preview, I want to say that our thoughts are with the family and friends of Jude Morris after the terrible accident at Duns this weekend. Andy, if you want to say something as well about that.
Yeah, devastating news came in at the weekend there. Obviously, the downside are our sport, so thinking of on the families and our prayers. Obviously a tough blow. You don't want to experience anything like that. So all the best to them.
Yeah, it's a very difficult situation. So unexpected. Obviously, it's something that nobody ever wants to see, and it's hard to get it out of your thoughts when that happens. So all our thoughts and prayers with the family and friends of Jude Morris at this time. The start of this one, we'll want to start with AMA, and then we'll follow with the MXGP, the Turkish Grand Prix double header that will happen this weekend. But in the AMA racing at Ironman round 10 of the championship, and Eli Tomac finally got that overall win. He's been chasing it all year long. He's been close at times all year long, although he's had a few inconsistent motos that have taken it away from him. But a 2-1 for Eli. Very good second moto to get that win. Dylan Ferrandis, he won the first one, but said he was lacking energy, and we could see he played it smart in the second one with second place. So Tomac ran away really in the second moto and finally got that win, and he looked really good doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been knocking on the door this season now in terms of getting the occasional overall win. Obviously, Ferrandis and Roxon have his speed covered majority of the weekends, but obviously there's been a few rounds now where Tomac's been close to winning the overall, and he was able to get the job done at Ironman. Impressive weekend. He'll be glad to stand on the top step again, and hopefully he'll be looking to end the season with another couple of top steps to podium to round off his Kawasaki career now.
And obviously, as you mentioned, this is the end of his Kawasaki career. He's going to Yamaha next year, so he's 2 races left to get another win, but that potentially could be his last win for Kawasaki. And once again, as they were battling, especially in that first moto, Ferrandis and Tomac, it sort of gets you excited for next season because they're going to be teammates. So I'm wondering if that's in their minds at all as they're dicing and dueling for wins this year, if they're trying to get a bit of a one-up on each other. Ferrandis has the momentum this year. It looks like it's going to be his year now. With Ken Roxon at the weekend, they're losing more points, 3-5. Ferrandis is now 50 points ahead, so all he actually has to do going into this weekend at Pala is beat Ken Roxon. Even 1 point will do it, and that will clinch him the championship with a round to go, which no doubt he'll want to do to try and take the pressure off so he can enjoy that final round with no stress. Yeah,
absolutely. Like there's no question about it. Dylan Ferrandis has definitely been the better rider in the AMA National Motocross season. He'll deserve this title when he finally gets the job done. He'll be hoping this weekend, but if it doesn't happen this weekend, no point stressing about it. Just keep it in 2 ways. Don't do anything stupid, and it'll be his at the final round. But yeah, as you said, Tomac and Ferrandis going into next year, they're going to be teammates. Going to be really, really exciting. In Supercross, AMA starts with Supercross, so you probably have to give the upper hand to Tomac there. He's got a wee bit more experience. He's won an AMA 450 Supercross title, so he knows what it takes. But then Dylan Ferrandis will have another off season, and obviously his injury coming into this year wasn't ideal for his preparation. So he'll be hoping everything goes smoothly going into the season, the Supercross season in 2022, and he can really challenge. And then obviously in motocross, after the way he's been riding the AMA Nationals this year, he'd definitely be favoured for the AMA National title again.
And Tomac is actually only 21 points off Ken Roxon with 2 rounds to go, 4 motos to go. So Roxon, while he's just about still in contention for this title, although he does need a miracle, he might be starting to look back behind him at Eli Tomac coming on strong in the last few motos of this season. Probably doesn't want to lose that second place overall. I'm sure there's some extra bonus money for second over third. So that could be something to keep an eye on in the last 2 rounds. As well as that, Cooper Webb, he really stepped it up at the weekend. Rode really strong, good first moto and really strong second moto, past Ferrandis to get into the lead. He lost a place obviously to Tomac and then Ferrandis again, but he hung on to the back wheel of Ferrandis all moto. And after in the press conference and in the a post-race interview. He said he changed the frame and he feels a lot more comfortable now on the bike. But the thing that really interested me was when he was talking about why he's left Alvin Becker, that he was so burnt out he thought about retiring. Now, we've seen that before. Ricky Carmichael retired at 27, Dungey a similar age, and Ken Roxon, he left Alvin Becker for that exact reason, because he was burnt out and he wanted more fun in his racing. So for Webb, it was obviously a very high stress, and he's put his heart and soul into that Supercross season. But I think we can see now just how much that took out of him mentally, and you kind of wonder, is the reward of a Supercross title at the expense of actual enjoyment of racing a motocross bike at that level? He's obviously looking to get a wee bit of that back to sustain his career, so it's going to be very interesting to see how he does next year. But that frame change seems to have worked for him, and he's got that feeling back, and he looks to have that confidence back to where he can fight for the leading places again. And a motivated, happy, comfortable Cooper Webb always adds a lot to a race, because he'll never give in, and he always has his tactics to try to keep you behind him, or a quick aggressive pass back. So that's got to be good for the series and head into Supercross next year.
Yeah, just quickly on Alvin Becker, there's no denying that his method does work, but it's a very short-term method. Short-term, you've no issues, it'll work, and it's proven that if you do what he wants, you can win titles. But when it comes to longevity, it's not a huge surprise to see guys splitting after 2 or 3 years with him or whatever. Anderson, Roxon, and now Cooper Webb. Not a big surprise if you want to have a long career. So, yeah, it was good to see Cooper Webb riding well again. Nice style, really good to watch. Here's a stat for you. He's won 2 AMA 450 Supercross titles, and that was only his second AMA National 450 podium. Quite hard to believe whenever you see him race Supercross. He's up at the front every week, and for whatever reason, even though growing up I always seen him as a better motocross rider than Supercross rider, to be honest, but ever since making that switch to KTM, it does look like the priority has been Supercross. And, he's won the 2 Supercross titles, so you can't really begrudge him that. In America, that's what it's all about, Supercross. That's where the money is. So fair play to him for that. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he can end this season strongly, maybe get on the podium again, and then see if he can be a consistent front runner in the Nationals next year. But considering the bad start to the season he did have, he's actually done quite well, in my opinion, to get back up to 5th in the championship, because at the start of the season, it really wasn't looking like he was anywhere near the top 5.
Yeah, and funny, in the press conference he mentioned that he feels he's actually a better Supercross rider, or at least Supercross comes easier to him, which is surprising whenever you saw the speed he had outdoors on the 250. Now, obviously, he was on that Star Yamaha, which is the best bike by far, so that will give him an advantage. But we saw even when he moved to the 450 Yamaha for Dis Nations and the Grand Prix, he was very competitive there. So as you said, could be the priority of Supercross whenever you move to a 450, and then your outdoor level in terms of how much you need to be fast outdoors drops, because if you're like Cooper Webb and you're winning Supercross races and you're winning Supercross titles, the outdoor title just doesn't have the same prestige to it.
Yeah, exactly. And a Supercross season is very, very intense. And, you've only got a couple of weeks before the first national to get settings and stuff sorted. But at the end of the day, they're all on the same boat. But probably after going through that Supercross season and winning the title, after that, it's maybe celebration time a little bit. And then you maybe forget about the nationals or not do the work you're supposed to do. And it doesn't take it long to catch up on you. So that's possibly what happened as well. But it's good to see him right at the front again and get a second 450 podium in the AMA Nationals, but he'll certainly be chasing plenty more of them.
And obviously, if he was burnt out by the end of that Supercross season, the last thing in your mind is wanting to go to Florida and doing gnarly motos in the heat and trying to make yourself into a title contender for the 450 outdoor season, because you're already pretty much wiped out from Supercross. So that kind of explains probably that dip in form, along with getting comfortable on the bike. We'll have to say with Marvin Musquin out with COVID, Max Anstie out with COVID, Christian Craig missing, and a host of other guys, Dean Wilson as well, the depth in the 450 class has kind of come to a halt in the last couple of rounds. So I think it's good. There's only 2 rounds of this championship left, and they might even be looking to shorten this outdoor series because it always seems the last couple of rounds, the long season with all the supercross races as well, especially in the 450 class, things seem to take their toll at the end of the year. So the class started out really deep this year, the deepest it's been in a long time. But at the end of the year, you're really scratching around. You know, a lot of privateer guys are now getting into the top 10 where they weren't before. So I wonder if that's something they'll look at in the future. Although I'm sure MX Sports don't want any less rounds. It's just trying to keep the guys healthy so they aren't getting sick. Obviously, COVID's an extra thing this year, but in general, just to keep the motivation and the health, you wonder if there will ever be some adjustments to the length of the outdoor series.
Well, in my opinion, I prefer motocross over supercross. So if it was down to me, I would rather shorten the supercross season and just kept motocross the same, or even have a couple more motocross rounds. But that'll never happen in America because supercross is the priority. That's where the money is. That's if you can ride supercross and have a mediocre motocross season, the teams won't really mind so much as long as you can produce the goods in supercross. So I do understand that's the priority there. So what you're suggesting might work better for America, but as a fan and as somebody that prefers motocross, I personally would find it frustrating.
One guy we should mention who hasn't slacked off at all this outdoor season is Cody Schock, 6th overall. Another brilliant ride, and yes, the depth isn't what it was, but his pace has definitely been strong all year, and it looks like he's getting a bit better again. He beat Joey Savacci, who is no slouch outdoors. Savacci was 7th, and Cody was just behind the factory Honda rider of Chase Sexton in 5th. So a shout out to him, a brilliant year for him. Ben LeMay was 11th. Now, 10 years ago, Ben LeMay was 10th in the British Championship. So I think that kind of shows where the depth issue is, just kind of in and around outside of that top 10, especially when you compare it to MXGP at the minute. But as we said, the US series was really deep at the start of the year. So it's just trying to find a way. Obviously, you can always have injuries, etc. But there might be a way to, I'm not sure if they want to do it to shorten the season. But it does seem that people kind of, if something goes wrong, they're quite happy to take the last couple of rounds off, get a break, and then start this testing for Supercross again. So that could be something to keep an eye on over the next year or two to see if anything changes there, because you often hear the Americans go on about how long their season is. So it'll be definitely something to keep an eye on. But the 250 class was all about Jet Lawrence. 1-1, the first time he's ever went 1-1, and he couldn't have picked a better time to do it. 3 points behind in the championship coming in, 11 points ahead leaving Ironman. Perfect day for him. Brilliant performance. And Justin Cooper, he's under big pressure now after a subpar performance. And we don't know what the problem is. Is it his health that he mentioned last week, or is it an injury? Steve Mathis said he maybe hurt his thumb in that Washugal crash. He's staying quite mute about it, but he's under big pressure now coming into the last 2 rounds of the series.
Yeah, just on Jet, it was good to see him get 2 good starts. That's exactly what the doctor ordered as far as the Aussies concerned. So 2 good starts, going 1-1. It was getting interesting in the first moto with J Mart closing the gap, but I think he was pushing the envelope, to be fair, and we all seen the crash he had. So, but you have to say, Jet certainly put up a good fight when Martin did put those fast laps together. I think Martin done a 1:59, which is pretty incredible to close that gap, but Jet didn't give in and made him work for it, and in the end, Martin crashed, and Jet walks away with a 1-1. As far as Justin Cooper goes, definitely something not right there. There's definitely something wrong. I mean, he seems to be okay for 5 or 10 minutes, but after that, all the aggression just seems to go. Whatever the issue is, it is quite sad in a way, because you want the best rider to win this with the other rider having no issues, but it's looking like a tall order now. I mean, Jet rode really well to go 1-1, but for Justin to go 4-4, it's made life a bit easier for Jet. He's obviously opened up 11 points gap now, so as long as he can keep getting out of the gate and staying out of any drama, things are looking good for the Honda rider.
And to make things worse for Cooper, Jet won his first. We're on the first round at Fox Raceway, or Pala as they call it, and that's where they're going next weekend. So it's not like we're going to a track that doesn't suit Jet. That's going to be one of his best tracks as well. And if you're Justin Cooper, you basically can't afford to finish behind him in either moto. With 11 points, you probably want to get that down to 3, 4, 5 kind of number, so that it's in your hands going into the final round at Hangtown. So a lot of pressure now on Justin Cooper, and if there is something wrong, he's in a big race against time. He's going to need a miracle to try and get his health back, or his thumb injury back, or whatever the big problem is. He's only about 5, 6 days left to do that now. So definitely it looks like Jet Lawrence has taken the momentum of the series. And as you say, it was looking so close there for a while, but if Justin Cooper isn't at 100% of his ability, it's a wee bit disappointing to not see the final 2 rounds kind of go out in a blaze of glory, with both riders in a sort of titanic battle and maybe a ruthless battle in the last couple of motos for the championship.
Yeah, exactly that. But I just wish they would come out and tell us what the problem was. I know that they maybe don't want to go public with it in case it looks like an excuse, but it is frustrating when you see him riding around like that. And I mean, the intensity had completely gone the last 10 minutes of each moto, so he just looked to be riding around, to be honest. So yeah, it's frustrating, and yeah, he does need a miracle if that's anything to go by. But you never know; anything can happen in this sport. Jet could get into all sorts of drama, go down, and before you know it, he could be out for the season. You just don't know what's around the corner. So if you're Justin Cooper, you still need to keep plugging away. Anything can happen. And I have to say, I was surprised he didn't get that. I think in the second moto, he only started fourth for Justin Cooper in the Star Yamaha. It's a disaster.
Used to sit anyone in front of him at the start of the race. So as mentioned, throwing it away, Jeremy Martin did just that, and he was absolutely charging in that first moto quarter right up to the back of Jet. But again, for Jet, it just takes one wee mistake that happened, Jeremy, and you could end up with a broken wrist like Jeremy has and out for the season. So there is always that doubt, I suppose, that Justin Cooper's going to have to keep in his mind that anything could happen, but he's going to have to be there to push Jet. This weekend we saw whenever Jet got the big lead, he was quite happy and pretty smart. I think he's 18 now, but he's shown a lot of maturity. He doesn't push the envelope anymore. He just rides at the pace he has to ride to win. So for Justin Cooper, if you see that, you're thinking that's a problem, because it means I'm going to have to be going fast enough throughout the whole moto to push Jet Lawrence to try and get that pressure on him, and keep my fingers crossed he makes the mistake, because right now it's been Justin Cooper generally making the mistakes, or at least not being able to ride his potential. And he's going to have a big turnaround here in the last 2 rounds. But Joe Schmoder also rode really well. He actually got a hole shot, which he's been missing, but this might have been his best performance of the season, and he's been pretty good all year. So it was really nice to see him do that. I felt he rode with more aggression, maybe the adrenaline of getting the hole shot and battling with his former teammate Jet. So it was really nice to see him ride with that wee bit of extra aggression. He's always really smooth. So I think we should give him some credit as well. He was very impressive this weekend.
Yeah, I was literally going to ask you, was it just me, or was he riding a lot more aggressive than usual? So I'm glad you made that point, because certainly to me, he looked a lot more aggressive than usual too. And that's good to see, especially at those type of tracks, fast and flowing. That's where you need a bit of aggression. And it was nice to see him maybe not ride on the edge, but ride a lot more aggressive. And, the benefits was the second overall, 2-3. So really, really good weekend for him. And especially after hurting his hand, it's good to see him not affected by that.
Yeah, and it was interesting. We did an interview with Renee Hoffer for a podcast just yesterday, and he actually mentioned he raced and beat Joe in one of the Junior World Championships. So it's interesting to see how good Renee is on the World Championship side, and how good Joe is where he's come from and developed to get to his level in the AMA. So definitely a success story for that era of the Junior World Championships, a very, very competitive class that season.
Yeah, I think they were on 85s then, and Rene, as you said, won the Junior World Championship. But fast forward to 2021, and Joe Shimoda's sixth in the AMA National Championship, and I think Rene Hoffer, despite being out for a whole year, I think he's currently ninth in the MX2 World Championship. So it's cool to see the way their careers are going, and they'll just want to keep improving and learning from more experienced riders and build on it. And I do feel like Rene Hoffer isn't far off a podium in the GPs if he can get his start sorted out, especially in the hard pack.
Yeah, we'll be moving on to the GPs shortly. Also, to keep with that theme, Rick Elzinga is going over from EMX to do a AMA National at Fox Raceway and possibly even Hangtown. This opportunity came up pretty randomly for him, and we'll have an interview on the website if you want to check that out. But it's something definitely worth keeping an eye on at Fox Raceway. although maybe not the best track to go to, because a lot of the riders, especially the Californian-based riders, all grow up riding that track and are riding that every week. So it isn't going to be the easiest track for him. But we saw with Alex Lupino that he was able to adapt to it pretty good, and Elzinga is over there riding as we speak at the minute in California. So definitely one to keep an eye on. I'm not sure how he'll do. Maybe 10 to 15, 10 to 20. It'll be interesting. He hasn't really done a Grand Prix that I can remember this year to sort of even have half a gauge of leveling that off with the AMA Nationals. So definitely it'll be an extra thing to keep an eye on, as well as the 250 title fight between Lawrence and Cooper.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm looking forward to seeing how Rick Elzinga performs. Actually, I do worry about him in the heat. That is my biggest concern for him, actually. I think it's over 40 degrees there at the minute. And, at the start of this season, Rick Elzinga openly admitted his fitness wasn't up to scratch because he was sick coming into the season. And while he has recovered from that, the heat's still going to be difficult. And I hope it doesn't throw anything up there. But I do feel like he can be 10 to 15. He's not known for great starts, so I hope he can even get out in the top 20. And I think he has the speed to push forward even and finish 10 to 15 if he can manage the heat. If he can completely manage the heat and get a good start, I don't think he could be far off 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, those kind of results. But, it's a big opportunity for him and it's a great experience. So I hope he just takes it all in stride, does well, and then we can see him at the last round as well.
And the heat you mentioned there, the heat in California, although it can be blazing hot, I was at the Grand Prix at Glen Helen there, I think it was 2010, maybe 2011. And it was, I think, near 40 degrees that day. And it is blazing hot, but you don't have the humidity. On the east, obviously Florida and stuff, you have the humidity, and that's definitely more draining. So there might be a ray of hope there for Elzinga, even if it is really hot, that although it's going to be scorching, you aren't have that humidity that might drain you even more. But as you say, that's another factor you're going to have to take in consideration, because Holland isn't exactly California weather and California sun. So definitely that's going to be something he's going to have to learn to deal with. But Michael Moseman, moving back to last weekend, I thought he rode well coming back from all the issues he's had the last few rounds for fourth. Nice to see him do well again. And Austin Faulkner looks like he's definitely taken that step now. He's sort of a consistent top five rider. And you never know, if he gets a start, he could become a player in these last two rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're spot on there. It's nice to see Faulkner ride this potential. And after, let's say, for his standards, a disaster start to the season, to claw his way back up to 7th in the championship, he's turning it around, let's say. Obviously, Joe Shimoda's still one spot ahead of him in the championship, so that'll not please him too much because he's now not the number one Kawasaki rider, and that's rule number one. But I think considering the start of the season he's had, he'll be happy with the progress he's made, and he'll just want to bang out top 5 motos to end the season on a high, really, and then focus on 2022.
Yeah, it should be an exciting round at Pala, especially in that 250 class. It looks like that's where most of the action's going to be. Now let's move on to MXGP. The championship finally gets back underway again after a unintentional, I suppose, summer break with the cancellation of a round a couple of weeks ago. We're going to Turkey, and it's going to be a double header for the guys. Now that track is quite hard packed, quite flat, quite fast, almost too fast at times, and pretty jumpy. What are your thoughts on the track, first of all? Initially looking at it, you would think it'll be a good track for Tim Geiger and Roman Febvre.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I agree, it was very fast, and I wasn't really a fan of it. But whatever way the dirt was last year, maybe the way they ripped the track from memory, I felt like it was slower and it was less pennant to win it. So I'm hoping it's similar to last year, because I feel like last year was better than the year before. So fingers crossed for that, because it was more technical, I think, last year. Yeah, but it'll be interesting. Hardpack, I'm sort of excited to see the boys on hardpack again, because there's been a lot of sand this year. Obviously, a few hardpack rounds at Matterdy and Lockhead, but back on the hardpack now on Sunday and Wednesday, and I can't wait. I've definitely had missed. We're getting to the stage now where you're ready for some MXGP racing again, but I feel like the break did come at the right time, with Hurling's allowing him to get more bike time, and hopefully he's not riding in pain now, and it'll be really interesting to see how he does. He kind of has to just go all out for the win,
Yeah, I've actually written down here Jeffrey Hurling's go time, 43 points back. we saw straight after Latvia, he was straight back out on the bike. So I think he knows this was his 4 weeks to get back to his prime level. We saw a video just released today and we've seen earlier clips on Instagram a few weeks ago. He's been riding at 250 to try and build his intensity. So I'm expecting Jeffrey Hurlings to come out swinging over these next 2 rounds. He can't really afford to lose any more points. The rest of them are all 18 points between the top four. Jeffrey Hurlings 43 back of Tim Geiser in fifth. So Hurlings has to deliver instantly, no more waiting around. He can't afford another mistake, so he's going to have to balance that a wee bit. And everyone else knows he can't afford a mistake, so they might try to pressure him into it. But Hurlings, just by going what you see on social media and the reality of his points deficit, he knows that he has to come out swinging and deliver race win after race win, or at least overall win after overall win. He can't really afford to lose any more points to Tim Geiser. But for me, Prado is the guy that's looking sneaky good with this momentum. I will need to say it again, but he had COVID. He still had physical issues coming in. And he was looking a lot better holding off Hurlings in the second moto at Latvia. And now he's had these 4 weeks. I think we're about to see prime Jorge Prado at his best level. We've seen him on a 450 in the second half of the season. I think he's going to be on it.
Yeah, it will certainly be interesting. It is hard to predict, to be honest. I can't remember an MXGP season for a long time, 4 riders being so close, and then even though it's devastating for Hurlings, he had that injury. Him being a wee bit behind him, actually, it almost makes it a little bit more exciting because, you know, the way he was coming into the season, that kind of goes out the window now, being consistent and just thinking about the championship, because now he needs to go all out for the win. So it's a new dimension to the championship, and you know, between those other 4, Caroli, Geiser, Febvre, it's going to be really good. Starts are so crucial this year, I feel, so because they're all pretty similar pace, and then you've got Febvre who likes to throw it down the track this season, so if he can keep it in 2 ways, you can't count him out either. But yeah, just on Prado, yeah, it's hard to know. It really is hard to know. I think if he certainly gets the starts, which he's known for, that's half the battle. And we all know he'll put up a fight no matter who's behind him. We've all seen that with the battles, the way he's been battling Crowley this year. So he'll definitely give it everything he has, and he is the danger man in the championship. The guys can't let him build up this momentum, but you still have to say Tim Geiser, despite not winning the moto, I think it's Cincinnati, he still has the red plate, so he's still the man with the target on his back.
Yeah, and you said windy there. Of course, that actually means window, not fast air. It's just a bit of a Northern Irishism. You'll have to stick with us for that. But Tim Geiser,
sorry.
Tim Geiser is leading the championship. And this sort of track is where you would expect him to win, to be honest. And Roman Febvre second place, 13 points back. He's also very good in the hard pack. This is probably what these two have been waiting for, to get on the hard pack and establish their momentum. But as you mentioned, it's so difficult to predict. Prado's got good health probably by now, but yet Geiser and Febvre, you would on paper look like they should be the 2 favourites coming into this weekend. And then you have Caroli, who for me is a slight question mark just in terms of his inconsistency. Is he with a bit of a break? Maybe he has some injury or something going on, we don't know. Has that rest done him good? Obviously, he's a bit older, and consecutive Grand Prix can take its toll on him. So that break might have actually worked in the Italians' favour. And he's another one who's going to be very interesting to see how he comes out with these 2 races in Turkey.
Absolutely. I think the break came at the perfect time for Crowley, you know, after starting the season so well. And it's quite weird. This season, like his better results has came in hard pack, and he feels he's riding hard pack better than ever, really. So I think he'll go to Turkey with maybe a different mindset, and yeah, we could see him right at the front. Like Prado, he's known for his good starts as well. So if he can get good starts and get that intensity up the first couple of laps, break away from the rest of the field, you know, anything can happen. You cannot rule this guy out, despite the fact he's 36 soon. You just can't.
Yeah, and I think the only thing I'm sure we're both in agreement with is that we just don't want anyone getting any injuries because it's pretty perfect right now. We saw with the AMA injuries and illness and stuff has affected the depth of that championship, and you don't want that, and you certainly don't want the elite level championship contenders getting hurt because you, at this point, even with Hurlings has had that one injury and missed one round, he still has the chance to win it, and it looks like the best rider on the of these five that are really going for it will still win this championship, hopefully, regardless of what happens. They also should say there's talk now that there's going to be a double header British Grand Prix. The calendar might be released this incoming week, an updated calendar with all the COVID situation going on. So double British Grand Prix again. That track, although you don't know what the weather's going to be, but that track seems to suit all the main riders, and that could make things pretty exciting to watch as well.
Yeah, great news about Mallory Basin. That's really good, handy for us as well with COVID at the minute. We can fly because even though we're from Northern Ireland, we can because we're part of United Kingdom. It's handy for us just to explain to our listeners because we could call the Irish, even though we have a kind of are. We'll not fall out with anybody, but just an explanation there. It's basically, long story short, it's easy for us to travel there, so that's us happy. And we'll get another couple of rounds hopefully. But also on that, I do believe there's a possibility of Lommel and us getting more races. So the Sandmen will be well excited if that happens as well.
Yeah, because that could tilt the championship from Geyser. Although it's hard to say that now, the West Speed Geyser and Fever are riding sand, but I don't think you can ever be sad whenever another Lommel GP comes up. It's one of the best races of the year just to watch them how they navigate the sand. So that and Matterley Basin for me, two of the best tracks on the calendar. Getting more Grand Prix, fingers crossed. It's hard to be upset about that, even though it's not ideal that the tracks will have multiple rounds. But let's move to MX2. And the wild card here coming back for me could be Tom Vial. He won the international in Ballon. He's obviously had that injury, so he's wiped out of the championship contention. But now he's nothing to lose, and if you're heavy, you're probably wanting to go out here and prove a point that you're still the best 250 rider in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He'll be running at the front, and he'll win plenty of GPs, all being well before the end of the year if he rides like he can. He's certainly showed that last year how good he is on a bike, and shame with his injury, unfortunate injury earlier in the year. But yeah, he'll definitely be at the front. But for me, the title battles, the most exciting bit. I can't wait to see what happens there with Maxime Renault, the way he's been riding, building momentum, building confidence. Even Rennie Hoffer and Mikael Harap commented on how confident he is at the moment, and they hope to get to that stage in the future. But it's going to be interesting to see if he can maintain this as maybe the pressure builds of the championship. And also Jago Gertz, for me, he's the danger man, but the one issue for him seems to be arm pump. He needs to stop getting arm pump because that could really hinder him.
Yeah, I feel in normal circumstances, Gertz is 36 points back, Guadagnini second place in the championship, 34 points back. As you mentioned, the arm pump, if Gertz was riding at his optimum level, you would think he still has a very good shot at this based upon last season and certain wins this year. But that last GP that Renault won kind of told me that Renault is mentally stable and very tuned in for this championship. It's hard to tell until it actually happens, but he's the guy to beat. He's all in the pressure at the minute, but it looks like he's mentally prepared for that now, and that win's given him a big boost of confidence. So it's up to Gertz to try and break that confidence. As such, Gertz never won a world championship either, so it's not like he's experienced of a championship battle, but not actually winning. So I'm not sure how if he even does have an advantage there. He's going to have to go out and take this from Renault because it doesn't look like Renault's going to give it away.
Yeah, absolutely. And a bit like for Jeffrey Hurlings, it's the same for Jago Gertz. It's go time. He's 36 points behind, and he just needs to rack off the wins really. Because especially if Renault keeps riding the way he's been riding, he's going to be top three pretty much every moto, unless he starts to get bad starts or whatever. But even with bad starts, he's able to stay calm and calculated and work his way through up a deep field. So he's been very, very impressive this year. But for me, Igo Gertz is probably the most talented rider in that class. So it is kind of frustrating that he's not able to put it all together so far this year. But hopefully he can stop getting that arm pump and he can just forget about the title, really. Just go out, ride fun. And if he can do that, there's no reason why he can't rack off the wins. It's just, I keep saying it, but it is the arm pump is definitely a concern for me because it's something that he hasn't really had his career as far as I'm aware. So for it to happen this year is a bit strange. So hopefully he can get past that and we can see a good championship battle.
And we can't not talk about Guadagnini. You just don't know what this guy's going to produce. He's had a couple issues in the sand, but we're going to hard pack, obviously, with Turkey. And if he gets a win and something happens to Renault, he could get that momentum as well. So I don't think we should really count him out just yet. He's still second in that championship and he has the talent and all the capabilities to go out and win races. As does Ruben Fernandez, but he's lost a wee bit of momentum the last couple of weekends, especially with that crash in Latvia. But it looks like he's staying with Honda next year and he'll want to come out and kind of get back to where he was at the start of the season. Hard packs where he thrives. And this is two big Grand Prix for him if he wants to really kind of stay in this World Championship fight.
Absolutely. Guadagnini and Fernandez, they're probably looking forward to getting back in the hard pack. Hasn't been a great amount of it this year. And obviously Fernandez started the season with 2 podiums in hard pack conditions. So he'll be looking forward to that. And it'll be interesting to see if he can ride the same level he did the first couple of rounds. We keep saying it, but the start's so important in MX2 this year. The field is definitely very, very deep and the riders are so close in time. So starts is half the battle these days. So if they can get out of that gate, there's no reason why they can't be running in the top 5 or even getting the podiums.
Yeah, it's been an absolutely fantastic class to watch. Bennis on 5th, he can win motos. Jed beating podium, should really be a race winning contender. Berstrame can win races. Kaida Wolf's already won a race. Although it's hard to pack, he's improving all the time and he's had 4 weeks and to get even better. So expect something from him as well. Rene Hoffer, we were talking to him on Sunday. He's starting to come back to his best form after the injury. Simon Lagenfelder, a wee bit up and down at times, but overall a strong season from him. And obviously, we've already mentioned Tom Vial. He could end up being the guy to beat Moto to Moto if he's back to form. But then he'll be getting in amongst the title contenders, and he's a teammate in World Championship contention with Mattia Guadagnini. So will at some point he have to help him? So there's a lot of question marks, a lot of talent in this class. We haven't even mentioned Mikhail Harrop, Conrad Muse on his day. We know what he can do. Wilson Todd's been very, very good. Isaac Gifton kind of moments of brilliance. So this class is absolutely fantastic. And it's only Monday as we're doing this podcast already. I can't wait for the weekend to see these guys back in action.
Yeah, and also Rowan van der Moosdijk has been back in the bike, so I'm fairly certain he'll return to Turkey too. So keep an eye on that one and the potential Kai de Wolf and Rowan van der Moosdijk battle. Because obviously, even though Rowan's picked for the Motocross the Nations team, you know, if Kai can put in good performances and beat him, there's possibly a decision to be made there. So it should be exciting to watch those two go at it and see Rowan back at the GPs as well. Because obviously he has the speed to be a podium guy and even win races.
Yeah, it promises to be very, very exciting. That whenever you have that month break and you had all the momentum of who was doing what, it's somewhat a wee bit reset, almost like a first round again. So everybody will be coming out firing, everybody's confidence will be jacked back up again because they've had a good 4 weeks. I'm sure everyone thinks they've had a good 4 weeks and they're going to go to the next level in MXGP, MX2, whoever you are, you're going to be ready to rock. So roll on this weekend, Andy, and we will reconvene at some point next week, probably maybe Wednesday, Thursday after the second GP, and talk about America on both GPs in Turkey. So that could be a pretty long podcast, but it should definitely be an exciting one. I can imagine there's going to be an awful lot to talk about for that one. But for now, thanks very much, everyone. Please subscribe if you can. And Andy, thanks for your thoughts, and we'll reconvene next week.
Thanks, guys. All the best.